Well, I made it through the storm. Uh, it was strong, but the Lord is stronger. I got back to my house. I stayed with Lee last night, and her power went out. But when I got back over to the church, it wasn't out, and neither is my house. And I believe that the Lord has his way of saying, peace be still, other than what I thought. But I feel like he did say, peace be still. My yard's got a bunch of debris in it, but he's going to help me with that. I know he is. And there's a water problem, one little water problem that I've got to fix. But my house is not torn up. It is doing well for being 100 years old, almost 99 years old, and in such a storm. I thank God for saying, peace be still. I'm going to start back in Exodus chapter 7 and verse 1. Granny shares the Bible. And I'm glad I got to come back today. And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Now, what did Moses say right before that? In 6 and 30, he said, And Moses said before the Lord, Behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? He meant, I can't talk. I can't talk. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe I could guess, but I don't know exactly what it means. Because I don't want to guess. But that's what he was trying to say, was he wasn't free to speak as someone else might be able to, because he's just didn't feel like he could talk to Pharaoh like he needed to. And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. You know, can you ever guess what the Lord's going to say? Can you just sit around and guess what the Lord's going to say? If I'd have tried to guess what the Lord was going to say after Moses said that, I would have never guessed that. Never. That the Lord said, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. I'd have never guessed that. God is amazing. His understanding, you can't find it out. It can't be found out. And oh, hallelujah. I'm so glad he gave us his word so we can learn about him. And even if we learn about him, that doesn't mean we know what he's going to say when he says things. Because he says some wonderful things, doesn't he? And this is a wonderful thing that he said to Moses. And verse 2 said, Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. Okay, but this in verse 3, he said, And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. So God wanted to show himself strong. He wanted people to know who he was, his people to know who he was, and us to know who he was. You know, I can see him looking ahead and seeing me teaching Granny Shares. I can, from this point. I can see him seeing me doing this and saying, I'm going to give her something to teach. I'm going to give her something that she has to say how great I am about. It's not going to just be cut and dried. Let my people go and he'll just let them go. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be something that happens that really shows the glory of God. It says, verse 4, But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt, by great judgments. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them. So he said the Egyptians shall know. They had lots of gods, but their gods were not real. And if they were able to do anything, it was only by the power of the devil. So God was getting ready to show the Egyptians who he was. And besides showing them, he's going to bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old, when they spake unto Pharaoh. And a score is 20, so 80 is 80, and 83 is 83. So that's how old they were. That means Moses was about 4 years older than me. I'm almost 76. In December, I'll be 76. And so he was 4 years and a little more, maybe 4.5 years or something like that, older than me. And Aaron was 7 years older than me. So here they are just beginning to do this great work. I need to understand that, you know. I know it's different back then, it seemed like, but Moses said that a man's life is 70, and if by reason of strength 80. Let's look in Psalms. And it seemed like it was in chapter 90 that was Moses' psalm. Let me go back there and find it. Moses' psalm, yep. Chapter 90, a prayer of Moses, the man of God. And he went saying, the days of our years are 80 years and 10. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off and we fly away. So I don't know when Moses wrote this, but he was saying that we have 70 years. 80 is 60 plus 10 is 70. And if by reason of strength they be 80, 80. So here I am right in between 80 and 10 and 80. And he was saying that was our lifespan. That's how long we live. And so I'm right there in the middle of it, but he was right there at the end, but he wasn't. Because he was going to live 40 more years. And he was going to really have a big work to do between the years of 80 and 120. So that's Moses. And Moses, that tells how old they were right then when they spake unto Pharaoh. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. So when he cast it down, it became a snake. All right, now listen to what happened. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers. Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods with their enchantments. These magicians were powered by the devil. Anything like enchantments, charms, anything that has to do with magic, those are things that are powered by the devil. Does the devil have power? Yes, he does. Unless God says no. You know, when you go on over into where Elijah was, they were proving who was God, though the prophets of Baal might have been able to have enchantments, and be able to cast spells and all that before, when that contest between Elijah and the prophets of Baal, they couldn't do anything because God wouldn't let them. And Elijah called down fire from heaven. So here, God allowed those magicians to cast their rods down and them become serpents, the devil's power. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Oh. And then you can just see it. I guess that rod was a lot stouter since that happened. Can you see Aaron reaching down and catching the tail of his rod, his serpent, and it becoming a rod, and it was probably a lot thicker rod after that. So, verse 13, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. So, even though that happened, and I guess Pharaoh's heart went, as soon as the magician's rods became serpents, he went, see, that's no big deal. But when he saw that rod of Aaron swallow up all those other serpents, you'd think he would maybe think something about that, but the Bible said he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. So the Lord was not allowing Pharaoh to let him go. He was hardening his heart. Sometimes it feels that way about people, doesn't it? It feels like, well, why wouldn't they want to get saved? Why wouldn't they want to turn from their sins and get ready for heaven? All the horrible things that's coming on this earth. Why wouldn't they? Because sometimes their hearts are hardened. Either they harden them themselves, or even God might harden them because he knows what they're going to do. So all I can say is it's possible for God to harden a man's heart. And he hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And the rod which was turned into a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. And thou shalt say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath sent me unto thee, saying, Let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord, In this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. Now, the river is the Nile River. And the river is what brought them all their prosperity. The Nile River. And Pharaoh, his daughter, or not this Pharaoh's, but the Pharaoh's daughter that Moses had for a stepmother, she went out to the water in the morning. Now Pharaoh's going to go out into the water, so they must have had some kind of a bath in the river in the morning. And Pharaoh especially now, because God wanted Moses and Aaron to speak to him when he went out to the river. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Take thy rod, and stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, upon their ponds, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod, and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. So all that had anything to do with the Nile River, all that water, streams, ponds, pools of water, all of it became blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank. And the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river, and there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. Oh, wouldn't that be awful? Instead of water, it was blood. Blood is sticky. Blood is staining. Blood is nothing like water. Nothing to help things like water is to help them. You don't drink blood. Normally you don't drink blood, and you don't want to drink blood. Verse 22. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments, so they could turn water into blood. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house, neither did he set his heart to this also. And all the Egyptians digged round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. And 7 days were fulfilled after that the Lord had smitten the river. I don't know if it gradually turned back to regular water. I don't know. Doesn't really tell us that that came back. But they had to, it says that they dug around about the river for water to drink. So obviously there was still water that could be got by digging down, and you find regular water instead of blood. But their whole prosperity came from the Nile River, and God had suddenly done something to it to make it loathsome to them, something that was awful, stinking, wasn't of any value to them. And because the magicians did the same thing, Pharaoh hardened his heart, and he turned and went into his house, and neither did he set his heart to this also. So the Egyptians were being plagued, and this is the first plague. We're starting on that plague, and tomorrow we'll start on Exodus 8 and see what happens after that. God bless you. I want to say thank you very much for all your prayers for us during the hurricane. God heard and answered. We are not destroyed, as it seemed we might be. In fact, this is my house, and I'm in it, and it's not a mess. There's one little thing I've got to get straightened out about it. Somehow water gets in the ceiling of my kitchen. Don't know how, but it's usually if it's blowing rain, it happens. So I've got to get that straightened out, but my house is not destroyed. And thank God for it, and thank God for y'all praying for me, praying for us. It's no small thing to me. I appreciate it, and agreeing with me. Peace be still, because peace came. Thank you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, Lord willing, for Granny Shares the Bible.